examples 5 and 6, we are going to be writing down the equation of a circle that has certain characteristics. Okay, so remember, we did something very similar for lines. Now we're just doing it for circles. Okay, so let's take a look at example 5. It says, find the standard form of the equation of the circle whose center is 5, -2, and whose graph contains the point 4, 0. All right, so we are told here that we need to write down the standard form of the equation of the circle. Okay, so remember what that looks like. Standard form of the equation of the circle is the x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared is equal to r squared. So your answer is gonna have to be in this format. Okay, so the circle that we're looking at, we know two things about it. Okay, first of all, the center is at 5, -2, and the other thing we know about the circle is that the circle goes through the point 4, 0. Okay, so your answer will be the equation of the circle. I have a grid here. You're not asked to graph the circle, but sometimes you might want to sketch out what's going on just to get a visual that might help you. So that's why the graph is there, the grid. All right, so like I said, the answer is going to be the standard form of the equation of the circle, which is what I have here. Okay, so remember how you plug into this. When you plug into this form, into this equation, x and y stay x and y. Okay, r is the radius. Okay, so remember, the right side of the equation is going to be the radius squared, not just the radius. Okay, and then h, k, those are the coordinates of the center of the circle. Okay, so to plug into this equation, you need two things. You need the radius and you need the center. Well, we already know the center. The center of the circle is right here. Okay, the center is 5, -2. Okay, the radius, it's not mentioned. They don't flat out say, oh, the radius is 5 or the radius is the square root of 11. You're not told what the radius is. Okay, so we'll have to figure that out. Let's go ahead and use the information we have about the center. So the center is at 5, -2. So this is going to be our h. H is the x coordinate of the center, and then -2 is going to be the k. K is the y coordinate of the center. So we can go ahead and plug in the h and the k into this equation. So let's do that. So here's the template for plugging into this. So for the first set of parentheses, you're going to have parentheses x. The minus comes with it. Okay, we'll plug in for h and then square that. Then we'll have plus open parentheses. The y stays y. The minus comes with it. Close parentheses. We'll plug in for k here. Square that quantity, and then that equals the radius squared. Okay, at this point we don't have the radius, so I'm just going to leave it r squared. All right, so let's plug in the h and the k. We know h is 5. It is the x coordinate of the center, and we know k is -2. It is the y coordinate of the center. Okay, so if we clean this up, this is going to be x minus 5 squared plus y, we have a minus 2. So this is going to be y plus 2 all squared is equal to r squared. All right, so we're almost there, but we've got to handle the radius. Okay, so what can we do? Well, we have one piece of information that we have not used that yet. Okay, so if you visualize what's going on with this circle, the center is at 5, -2. That's right here. And you're told that the circle goes through the point 4, 0, and that's this point. Okay, so if I drew some circle, these are the only 2 points I really kind of have to go on. Okay, so the circle is going to look something like this. Okay, it's going to go through this point 4, 0, and then it's going to be centered at this point. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. Okay, that's a kind of a sad drawing, but you get an idea of what it looks like. It's got a center at 5, -2, goes through the point 4, 0. Okay, you're just trying to come up with the equation of this circle. Okay, here's what we can do. We have to use this green information. The circle goes through 4, 0. Okay, so what we're going to do is this. Since the circle goes through the point 4, 0, we know one point on the circle. So if x is 4, the y value has to be 0. So we're going to plug that information in. Watch. Okay, so go back to your equation where you left off. If x is 4, so we're going to plug in 4 for x, okay, and then keep the rest of it. If x is 4, then y has to be 0. All right, so I've gone to my equation, and all I did was plug in 4 for x and 0 for y. And look what happens. On the left side of the equal sign, we just have a number. There are no variables. So we're going to be able to figure out what that number is, and that number is going to be equal to r squared, and then we're going to be able to solve for r. Okay, so let's do it. So 4 minus 5 is going to give you -1 inside of parentheses, so you're going to have -1 squared plus, inside the second set of parentheses, 0 plus 2 is 2, so you're going to get 2 squared is equal to r squared. Okay, so -1 squared is +1, okay, and then 2 squared is 4. So this tells us that r squared is 5, okay? So r squared is 5. If you take the square root of both sides, that means the radius is the square root of 5, okay? All right, but remember, you're not looking for the radius here. You want the equation of the circle. All right, so what we need to do, okay, if we go back up to right here, okay, this particular spot right here, okay, we were really close to writing down the equation of our circle, okay? We had standard form, we had plugged in the center of the circle, we were just waiting on the radius so that we could, plug in the right side here, okay? So we're going to go back to this green version, okay? And now we have the radius information, so we can complete the equation of the circle in standard form, okay? So it's going to be x minus 5 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to, the question is, what do you put on the right side? Well, the right side has to be r squared, okay? Well, look what r squared is. R squared is 5. You're putting r squared, not r, okay? So we're going to use this piece of information too, okay? The right side has to be r squared, which is 5, okay? This is your answer. Okay, this is the equation in standard form of the circle that has the given center. Okay, the center was at 5, -2, and it contains the point 4, 0. Okay, so here is your answer. And that's how you do a problem like this. Okay, if you're trying to write down the equation of a circle in standard form that meets certain characteristics, you basically have to write down the standard form and then plug in the circle and the radius, and then you're done. Okay, you may have to calculate the center, you may have to calculate the radius, but we're going over techniques on how to do those things. So let's try example 6, which will be similar.